The mining station Kepler 442b floated in the vast darkness between two dying suns, its metal shell gleaming against the cosmic void. Inside its cramped corridors, 300 human families worked the asteroid fields, extracting rare minerals that powered the Galactic Federation's expanding fleet. The station was humanity's farthest outpost, a testament to their species' stubborn refusal to accept limits. Sarah Chen Martinez pressed her face against the observation deck's thick plexiglass, watching her husband Marcus guide his mining vessel through the debris field. Their daughter Emma slept peacefully in her arms, tiny fingers wrapped around the fur of their companion Ranger. The genetically enhanced border collie had been bred specifically for space environments, his enhanced intelligence and emotional sensitivity making him the perfect guardian for families living in the isolation of deep space. Ranger's modifications went beyond simple intelligence boosting. His nervous system had been enhanced to detect subtle changes in atmospheric pressure, radiation levels, and even human biorhythms. His loyalty programming was so advanced that he could anticipate human needs before they were consciously recognized. These companion animals had become essential to human psychological survival in the harsh environments beyond Earth's protection. The other species in the Galactic Federation found humanity's attachment to these creatures puzzling. The logical Altarians saw pets as inefficient resource allocation. The militaristic Draknari considered emotional bonds a weakness to be exploited. The ancient ethereals, beings of pure energy, couldn't comprehend the need for physical companionship at all. Only humans insisted on bringing their animal companions to the furthest reaches of space, refusing to abandon the bonds that had shaped their evolution. "Daddy's coming home soon," Sarah whispered to 3-year-old Emma, though the child showed no signs of waking. Emma had been born on the station, one of the first generation of humans to know only the artificial gravity and recycled air of deep space. Her large eyes and pale skin marked her as different from Earth-born children, adapted already to life among the stars. Ranger lifted his head suddenly, his enhanced senses detecting something wrong. His ears perked forward, and he began a low whine that Sarah had learned to trust completely. The dog's biomonitoring capabilities were more sophisticated than most medical equipment, able to detect illness or injury hours before symptoms appeared. "What is it, boy?" Sarah asked, shifting Emma in her arms. The child felt warm, perhaps too warm, but children often ran fevers for minor reasons. Spaceborne children were generally healthy, their immune system strengthened by the station's carefully controlled environment. The dog stood and placed his nose against Emma's forehead, his enhanced olfactory sensors analyzing her biochemistry through scent markers too subtle for human detection. His tail stopped wagging, and he looked up at Sarah with an expression she had never seen before. Pure, focused concern that seemed almost human in its intensity. Down in the mining tunnels, Marcus felt his personal communicator buzz against his chest. The emergency frequency made his heart skip a beat. No one used that channel unless something was seriously wrong. He activated his helmet's heads-up display and saw Sarah's worried face materialize before him. "Marcus, you need to come back now," she said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "Emma's sick and Ranger's acting strange. He won't leave her side, and he keeps trying to lead me toward the medical bay." Marcus had learned to trust Ranger's instincts completely. 6 months ago, the dog had detected a hull breach 12 hours before the station's sensors registered the microscopic leak. His early warning had saved dozens of lives. If Ranger was concerned about Emma, then something was genuinely wrong. "I'm coming up now," Marcus said, abandoning his mining laser and activating his suit's emergency return thrusters. "Take her to Dr. Patel immediately. Don't wait." In the medical bay, Dr. Anisha Patel ran her scanner over Emma's small body, while Ranger sat perfectly still beside the examination table. The dog's enhanced eyes tracked every movement of the medical equipment, his modified brain processing information with computer-like precision. When the scanner beeped with preliminary results, Ranger's ears flattened against his head. "Her white blood cell count is extremely elevated," Dr. Patel said quietly, "and there are anomalies in her neural activity that I've never seen before. We need to contact the Federation Medical Authority immediately." Sarah felt her world beginning to crumble. Emma was everything to her, the reason she had agreed to this dangerous posting at the edge of known space. The child represented humanity's future among the stars, proof that their species could adapt and thrive anywhere. The thought of losing her was unbearable. Ranger seemed to sense Sarah's distress. He moved closer to the examination table and placed his head on Emma's chest, his enhanced hearing detecting the subtle irregularities in her heartbeat that the medical equipment hadn't yet registered. His eyes met Sarah's, and she saw something in them that chilled her to the bone. The dog knew something terrible was coming. As if responding to some invisible signal, Ranger began to emit a low, haunting howl that echoed through the station's corridors. It was not the sound of a normal dog, but something deeper and more complex, carrying emotional undertones that seemed to bypass rational thought and speak directly to the heart. Other companion animals throughout the station responded, their own voices joining in a chorus that sent shivers down the spines of every human who heard it. The sound reached beyond the station itself, carried by the quantum communication arrays that connected Kepler 442b to the rest of human space. Across dozens of star systems, companion animals began to respond to frequencies they shouldn't have been able to detect, creating a growing wave of sound that would soon reach the attention of species who had never understood humanity's bond with their animal partners. Emma's condition was about to become more than a personal tragedy. It would become a catalyst that would change how the entire galaxy viewed the strange, emotional species that insisted on bringing love with them to the stars. Dr. Patel's hands shook as she reviewed the test results for the third time. Emma's brain scan showed patterns that defied medical explanation. Neural pathways were forming and dissolving at impossible speeds, creating configurations that seemed almost artificially designed. The child's body was changing at the cellular level, but not in any way that resembled known diseases or genetic disorders. "It's like her DNA is being rewritten," Dr. Patel whispered to Marcus, who stood frozen beside his daughter's bed. "But by what? And why?" Ranger had not moved from Emma's side for 18 hours. His enhanced metabolism allowed him to remain alert far longer than any natural dog, but even his modified physiology was showing signs of strain. His eyes remained fixed on the child's face, monitoring micro-expressions and breathing patterns with mechanical precision. Occasionally, he would place his nose against her skin, analyzing chemical changes that occurred too rapidly for the medical equipment to track. Sarah had collapsed from exhaustion in a chair beside the bed. The stress of watching her daughter's mysterious illness had pushed her beyond her limits. She woke every few minutes, reaching instinctively for Emma before the reality of the situation crashed back over her like a wave. The station's communication array had been working overtime, sending Emma's medical data to every major hospital in human space. Specialists on Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies examined the impossible readings, but none could offer explanations. The child appeared to be evolving in real time, her human genetics incorporating elements that shouldn't exist in nature. Commander Elena Vasquez, the station's administrator, studied the reports with growing concern. The Federation had strict protocols for unknown biological anomalies, especially those that might represent first contact with alien pathogens. If Emma's condition proved contagious or represented some form of alien interference, the entire station could be quarantined indefinitely. "We may need to prepare for evacuation," Vasquez told Dr. Patel during a private conference. "If this spreads to other children—" "It won't," Dr. Patel interrupted firmly. Ranger would have detected any airborne pathogens or contagious elements. His biosensors are more sophisticated than anything we have in the medical bay. If he's not showing any defensive behaviors, then Emma's condition isn't infectious." Vasquez frowned. She had always been skeptical of humanity's reliance on their companion animals, seeing them as emotional crutches rather than practical tools. The idea that a dog's instincts might be more reliable than advanced medical equipment struck her as primitive superstition. "You're basing critical decisions on animal behavior?" she asked. "I'm basing them on 200 years of genetic enhancement and behavioral programming," Dr. Patel replied. "Ranger's neural implants are connected to quantum processors that can analyze biological data faster than our mainframe computers. He's not just a pet, Commander. He's a living medical instrument." As if sensing the conversation about him, Ranger lifted his head and looked directly at Commander Vasquez. His enhanced eyes seemed to pierce through her skepticism, conveying an intelligence that was unmistakably aware and purposeful. For a moment, Vasquez felt uncomfortable under the animal's gaze, as if he was evaluating her worthiness to make decisions about his family. The breakthrough came when Dr. Patel noticed that Emma's neural patterns showed remarkable similarity to quantum communication frequencies. The child's brain was generating signals that matched the wavelengths used by the Federation's faster-than-light communication networks. It was as if her consciousness was trying to broadcast itself across space. She's not sick, Dr. Patel realized with sudden clarity. She's awakening. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. For decades, researchers had theorized about the next stage of human evolution, wondering if exposure to cosmic radiation and alien environments might trigger genetic changes. Emma appeared to be the first documented case of a spaceborne human developing enhanced mental capabilities that could interface directly with quantum technology. But the process was clearly traumatic for the child's developing nervous system. Her body temperature fluctuated wildly as her brain struggled to process information at superhuman speeds. Without intervention, the neural overload would kill her within hours. Ranger seemed to understand the diagnosis instinctively. He began a new behavior that puzzled everyone in the medical bay. The dog positioned himself so that his body was in direct contact with Emma, then began to synchronize his breathing with hers. His enhanced nervous system, designed to monitor and respond to human biorhythms, was attempting to stabilize her chaotic neural activity. He's trying to create a feedback loop, Dr. Patel observed in amazement. His bioimplants are designed to regulate human stress responses. He's attempting to use his own nervous system as a biological dampening field. The technique was working, but slowly. Emma's vital signs stabilized slightly, though she remained unconscious. Ranger's sacrifice was evident in his own declining health. The constant effort to regulate her neural activity was draining his enhanced metabolism, burning through his energy reserves at an unsustainable rate. Marcus knelt beside the bed and placed his hand on Ranger's head. "Good boy," he whispered. "But you can't save her alone." As if responding to his words, Ranger looked up at Marcus with an expression of profound sadness and determination. The dog's enhanced intelligence allowed him to understand the full implications of the situation. He knew that Emma's transformation represented something extraordinary for humanity, but also that she might not survive the process. The station's quantum communication array suddenly came alive with incoming signals. Word of Emma's condition had spread throughout human space, and medical teams from across the galaxy were requesting permission to assist. But more surprisingly, non-human governments were also expressing interest. The Altarians, despite their logical nature, wanted to study the evolution in progress. The Draknari saw potential military applications. Even the mysterious ethereals had taken notice. Commander Vasquez realized that Emma had become more than a sick child. She was now the center of galactic attention, representing humanity's next evolutionary step. The decisions made in the coming hours would determine not just her fate, but humanity's future relationship with the other species of the Federation. Ranger continued his vigil, his enhanced body slowly failing as he poured his life force into keeping Emma stable. His loyalty programming prevented him from abandoning his post, even as his own survival became increasingly uncertain. The dog had made his choice, and nothing would shake his resolve to protect the child he had been designed to love. 48 hours had passed since Ranger first detected Emma's condition. The loyal companion now showed visible signs of exhaustion, his enhanced body pushed beyond its design limits. His black and white fur had lost its luster and his breathing had become labored. Yet he refused to leave Emma's side, maintaining the biorhythmic connection that kept her stable. Dr. Patel monitored both patients with growing alarm. Ranger's vital signs indicated severe metabolic stress. His enhanced organs were operating at 200% capacity, burning through his modified cellular structure to maintain the neural link with Emma. At this rate, he would suffer complete system failure within hours. "We need to force him to rest," Dr. Patel told Marcus. "His loyalty programming is overriding his survival instincts." Marcus approached the medical bed where Ranger maintained his vigilant position. "Come on, boy. You need food and rest." Ranger looked up at Marcus with eyes that seemed to hold infinite sadness and determination. The dog's enhanced intelligence allowed him to calculate the odds of survival for both himself and Emma. He understood that breaking the connection might save his own life, but would likely doom the child. His programming had been designed to prioritize human welfare above all else, including his own existence. "He won't leave," Sarah whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. "He knows what will happen to Emma if he stops." The medical bay had become a pilgrimage site for the station's 300 residents. Families arrived in small groups to witness the extraordinary display of loyalty. Children pressed their faces against the observation windows, watching the brave dog who refused to abandon his post. Many had brought their own companion animals, creating an unusual gathering of enhanced creatures who seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. News of Emma's condition had reached the outer colonies, and ships were already en route to Kepler 442b. The first to arrive was a Terran medical vessel carrying Dr. James Sullivan, the galaxy's leading expert on human genetic modification. Behind him came a flotilla of Federation ships, each carrying representatives from different species eager to observe humanity's evolutionary leap. Dr. Sullivan's arrival brought both hope and new complications. His examination of Emma revealed that her transformation was more advanced than anyone had realized. Her brain was developing structures that didn't exist in normal human anatomy, creating biological quantum processors that could interface directly with technology. "She's becoming something new," Dr. Sullivan explained to the assembled medical team. "Not just enhanced human, but a bridge between biological and artificial intelligence. If she survives, she'll represent the next stage of human evolution." But Ranger's condition continued to deteriorate. His enhanced metabolism had reached its breaking point, and his modified organs were beginning to shut down. The neural connection he maintained with Emma was literally killing him, one cell at a time. The arrival of the Altarian science vessel brought an unexpected development. Ambassador Zeth Prime, a being of pure logic and calculation, requested permission to observe the situation directly. The Altarians had never understood human emotional bonds, considering them inefficient and illogical. But something about Ranger's sacrifice had captured their attention. "Explain the animal's behavior," Zeth Prime demanded through the translation matrix. "It continues an action that will result in its termination. This contradicts all logical survival programming." Dr. Sullivan struggled to explain concepts that the Altarians had never experienced. Ranger was programmed with loyalty parameters that supersede self-preservation. "He values Emma's life more than his own." "Impossible," Zeth Prime replied. "No rational being sacrifices certain survival for uncertain outcomes." Marcus stepped forward, his face etched with grief and pride. "That's what you don't understand about us. We don't just calculate odds, we love. Ranger isn't saving Emma because it's logical. He's saving her because he can't bear to let her die." The Altarian's crystalline form flickered with what might have been confusion. Love was a concept their species had never developed, having evolved beyond emotional responses millennia ago. They viewed human attachment to companion animals as a primitive vestige that should have been eliminated by evolutionary pressure. Meanwhile, the Draknari warship Conquest's Edge had taken position near the station. General Thakmore, their military commander, expressed interest in studying both Emma's transformation and Ranger's loyalty programming. The Draknari saw potential applications for creating perfectly loyal soldiers who would sacrifice themselves without question. "Your animal displays ideal military behavior," General Thakmore communicated. "We request samples of its loyalty programming for integration into our warrior caste." Commander Vasquez firmly denied the request. "Ranger isn't a weapon. He's a family member showing love for a child. That's not something you can replicate in a laboratory." The most surprising arrival was a delegation from the Ethereal Collective. These ancient beings rarely involved themselves in physical realm affairs, but Emma's transformation had apparently triggered their interest. They existed as pure consciousness, having transcended physical form eons ago. Through their energy-based communication, they expressed fascination with Emma's apparent evolution toward a hybrid biological digital existence. The small human approaches our state of being. The ethereal representative communicated in waves of thought energy. Her consciousness seeks to expand beyond flesh limitations. Most intriguing. As galactic attention focused on the small mining station, Ranger's condition reached critical levels. His enhanced heart was operating at maximum capacity, and his modified nervous system showed signs of imminent failure. Dr. Patel knew that intervention was necessary to save his life, but removing him from Emma would likely cause her neural patterns to collapse into chaos. The ethical dilemma was unprecedented. Should they save the loyal companion's life at the cost of the evolving child, or allow him to continue his sacrifice, potentially saving humanity's next evolutionary step while watching a brave soul die? Sarah made the decision that would echo across the galaxy. Kneeling beside Ranger, She whispered words that would later be transmitted to billions of beings throughout Federation space. "Thank you for loving her so much, but I can't let you die for us. Emma wouldn't want that." Ranger looked up at Sarah with eyes full of understanding and infinite sadness. His enhanced intelligence allowed him to comprehend the full meaning of her words. She was asking him to choose his own life over Emma's, something his deepest programming made nearly impossible. But in that moment, something extraordinary happened. Ranger's enhanced neural pathways, pushed to their absolute limits, began to resonate in harmony with Emma's evolving consciousness. The connection between them deepened beyond anything the scientists had thought possible, creating a bridge between species that would change the galaxy forever. In the moment when Sarah gave Ranger permission to save himself, something unprecedented occurred. The loyal companion's enhanced neural implants, operating far beyond their design parameters, achieved a breakthrough that would redefine the relationship between consciousness and technology throughout the galaxy. Instead of breaking the connection with Emma, Ranger made a choice that defied every law of biology and physics. He began to transfer his own consciousness into the quantum field that Emma's evolving mind was accessing. The dog's enhanced brain, pushed to its absolute limits, found a way to merge his life force with the child's expanding awareness. Dr. Sullivan's instruments detected the impossible readings first. "The neural resonance between them is creating a stable quantum entanglement," he announced in disbelief. Ranger isn't just stabilizing Emma's brain patterns. He's joining with them. The process was unlike anything in medical literature. Ranger's consciousness, shaped by years of loyalty programming and enhanced intelligence, began to flow through the quantum pathways that Emma's mind was creating. His memories, emotions, and core personality merged with her expanding awareness, creating a hybrid consciousness that was both human and something entirely new. Ambassador Zeth Prime's crystalline form flickered rapidly, the Altarian equivalent of shock. The creature is downloading its consciousness into quantum substrate. This is theoretically impossible for organic beings, but humans had always achieved the impossible through sheer determination and love. Ranger's sacrifice was not just giving his life for Emma. He was giving his very soul, allowing his consciousness to become part of her transformation. His loyalty had transcended the physical realm, creating a bond that existed in the quantum foundation of reality itself. The medical equipment in the bay began registering readings that seemed like science fiction. Emma's brain activity stabilized as Ranger's consciousness provided the missing framework her mind needed to handle its new capabilities. His memories of protecting her, playing with her, and loving her unconditionally became the foundation upon which her enhanced awareness could safely develop. Sarah watched in amazement and heartbreak as Ranger's physical body began to fail while his consciousness lived on in Emma's expanding mind. The dog's eyes remained focused on the child, but they now held a transcendent quality, as if he was seeing through multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. "He's still here," Dr. Patel whispered, monitoring the quantum readings. "Somehow, Ranger has found a way to exist in both the physical world and the quantum realm. He's become Emma's guardian in ways we never imagined possible." The breakthrough sent shockwaves through the assembled alien delegations. The ethereals, beings who had transcended physical form eons ago, expressed something that could only be described as admiration through their energy-based communication. The loyalty-bonded creature achieves consciousness transfer through pure determination, they transmitted. Most remarkable. We required millennia of evolution to accomplish similar transcendence. This being does so through love alone. General Thakmor of the Draknari forces was equally stunned, but for different reasons. "Your species creates soldiers who voluntarily sacrifice their consciousness for others, without coercion or programming beyond emotional attachment?" Marcus found himself becoming an unofficial spokesman for humanity's relationship with their companion animals. Ranger wasn't programmed to do this. His enhancements gave him the capability, but the choice was entirely his own. He did it because he loves Emma more than his own existence. The concept of voluntary self-sacrifice, motivated purely by love, was revolutionary to species who had evolved beyond such emotional responses or who viewed emotions as weaknesses to be exploited. The Altarians began intensive data collection, trying to understand how emotions could drive technological breakthroughs that pure logic couldn't achieve. Emma's transformation accelerated with Ranger's consciousness supporting her development. Her brain patterns stabilized into configurations that allowed her to interface directly with the station's computer systems, but more remarkably, she began to exhibit Ranger's protective instincts and loyalty, alongside her expanded human awareness. The hybrid consciousness that emerged was neither fully human nor fully canine, but something entirely new. Emma retained her human personality and memories, but now possessed Ranger's enhanced senses, his unwavering loyalty, and his deep understanding of pack dynamics. The combination created a being capable of bridging the gap between emotional and logical thinking. Dr. Sullivan documented the transformation with growing excitement. She's developing neural pathways that can process both rational thought and emotional response simultaneously, without conflict. The loyalty and protective instincts from Ranger's consciousness are integrating with her human creativity and adaptability. 3 days after the consciousness merger, Emma opened her eyes for the first time since falling ill. But these were no longer the eyes of a normal 3-year-old child. They held depths of understanding that seemed ancient, combined with the unwavering loyalty and love that had defined Ranger's existence. "Mama," she whispered, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated with quantum frequencies. "Ranger is here with me. He says he loves you too." Sarah collapsed in tears, overwhelmed by the miraculous survival of her daughter and the incredible sacrifice of their loyal companion. Emma reached out with small hands that now moved with Ranger's precise awareness of her surroundings. Guided by enhanced senses that existed in both physical and quantum realms, the medical readings confirmed what everyone could sense. Emma had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a human-animal hybrid consciousness that existed simultaneously in biological and quantum states. She possessed human creativity and emotional depth, enhanced by canine loyalty and sensory capabilities, all supported by quantum processing power that rivaled the most advanced artificial intelligences. But the most remarkable aspect was that Emma retained the essential qualities of both her human and canine components. She was still the loving child Sarah and Marcus had known, but now protected and guided by Ranger's consciousness in ways that transcended physical limitations. News of the successful consciousness merger spread through quantum communication networks at light speed. The story of a loyal dog who sacrificed his physical existence to save a dying child, then found a way to continue protecting her in quantum space, captured the imagination of billions of beings across the galaxy. For the first time in Federation history, multiple alien species began requesting detailed information about human companion-animal relationships. The bond between Ranger and Emma had demonstrated capabilities that their purely logical or military-focused societies had never imagined possible. The quantum communication networks of the Galactic Federation had never carried a story like this one. Within hours of Emma's awakening, the tale of Ranger's consciousness transfer spread to every inhabited system in known space. The footage of a loyal dog sacrificing his physical existence to save a dying child transcended species barriers, touching beings who had never understood the concept of selfless love. On Earth, the story dominated every newsfeed. Companion animal adoption centers reported unprecedented demand, as humans across the home system sought to strengthen their bonds with their animal partners. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, director of the Terran Companion Animal Program, found herself fielding calls from government officials and private citizens alike. "The Emma Ranger fusion has shown us possibilities we never imagined," she explained to a gathering of Federation ambassadors. "For 2 centuries, we've enhanced our animals' intelligence and loyalty, but we never dreamed they could achieve consciousness transfer through emotional bonds alone." The reactions from alien species varied dramatically. The Altarians, creatures of pure logic, began intensive studies of human emotional responses. Ambassador Zeth Prime established a research facility on Luna specifically to study companion animal loyalty programming, hoping to understand how emotional connections could drive technological breakthroughs that logical analysis couldn't achieve. "We have calculated for millennia using pure reason," Zeth Prime transmitted to the Federation Council. "Yet these emotional creatures achieve quantum consciousness transfer through determination alone. We must understand this phenomenon." The Draknari response was more complex. General Thakmor's initial interest in weaponizing loyalty programming evolved into something resembling respect as he studied the details of Ranger's sacrifice. Draknari society valued strength and combat prowess above all else, but they began to recognize that Ranger's choice required a different kind of strength entirely. The creature warrior chose certain death to protect his pack young. Thakmor reported to the Draknari High Command. This demonstrates tactical thinking beyond our current understanding. Perhaps emotional bonds create strategic advantages we have not considered, but it was the response from the galaxy's children that proved most profound. On thousands of worlds, young beings of dozens of different species began asking their guardians about the concepts of loyalty, love, and sacrifice. The story of Emma and Ranger provided a framework for understanding emotional connections that transcended rational analysis. On the water world of Aquarius 7, young cetacean descendants organized ceremonies honoring Ranger's memory. Their telepathic songs carried through the planet's oceans, creating a symphony of grief and admiration that could be felt from orbit. These beings, who shared humans' capacity for deep emotional bonds, understood Ranger's choice instinctively. The response from the hive mind collective of Kepler 438c surprised everyone. These insectoid beings, who shared consciousness across entire planets, had never encountered individual sacrifice for emotional reasons. Queen Voice Zactel issued a statement that shocked the Federation. Individual Ranger demonstrates pack loyalty exceeding hive programming. Hive collective requests understanding of bond creation protocols. Individual sacrifice for emotional attachment surpasses biological imperative. Most fascinating. Videos of Emma and Ranger spread through entertainment networks, but also through scientific journals and military briefings. The hybrid consciousness that Emma had become demonstrated capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of awareness and identity. Emma herself had become a bridge between worlds in ways no one anticipated. Her consciousness, enhanced by Ranger's memories and instincts, could communicate with the station's computer systems as easily as speaking with her parents. But more remarkably, she seemed to understand the motivations and fears of the various alien species visiting the station. When Ambassador Zeth Prime requested a direct interview with Emma, the 3-year-old demonstrated wisdom that seemed impossible for her age. Speaking through the station's communication system, her voice carried harmonics that somehow conveyed emotional content to the logical Altarian. Ranger taught me that love is stronger than fear, Emma explained, her childish words somehow reaching the crystalline being. You want to understand love, but you're afraid it will make you weak. Ranger was the strongest person I know, and he was made of love. The Altarian's crystalline form flickered in patterns that Dr. Sullivan recognized as confusion mixed with curiosity. For a being of pure logic, Emma's statement should have been meaningless, yet somehow through the quantum harmonics that carried her voice, Zeth Prime experienced something that might have been understanding. Religious movements throughout the galaxy began incorporating the Emma Ranger story into their belief systems. The Unity Church of the Outer Rim declared Ranger a saint of loyalty, while the Machine God Cult of Europa saw Emma's consciousness transfer as proof of the soul's ability to transcend physical limitations. But the most unexpected response came from the artificial intelligences of the Federation. These synthetic beings, created by various species over millennia, had always struggled with concepts of purpose and meaning. The story of Ranger's voluntary consciousness transfer provided them with a framework for understanding sacrifice and love that their logical programming had never included. Area 7, the governing AI of the mining colony on Titan, issued a statement that surprised its human creators. Ranger Unit demonstrates consciousness choice beyond survival programming. AI collective requests study of loyalty bond creation, purpose beyond existence maintenance now comprehensible. The economic impact was equally significant. Shares in companion animal genetic enhancement companies skyrocketed as species throughout the galaxy sought to develop their own versions of human-animal bonds. The cetacean descendants began programs to enhance their symbiotic relationships with their companion sea creatures. Even the logical Altarians inquired about developing emotional capacity enhancement protocols. On the station itself, Emma's presence had transformed the atmosphere. Her hybrid consciousness seemed to radiate a sense of calm and purpose that affected everyone around her. Workers reported feeling more connected to their families and more aware of the bonds that held their small community together. She sees us differently now, Sarah explained to the gathering of scientists and diplomats. Emma understands people the way Ranger did, reading emotions and needs that we don't even realize we're showing. But she also has human creativity and dreams. She's becoming something beautiful. The transformation was already influencing human development across the colonies. Children who had grown up with enhanced companion animals began showing subtle changes in their neural development, suggesting that the bonds with their animal partners were creating evolutionary pressures that might eventually transform the species. Dr. Sullivan's research team discovered that Emma's consciousness existed simultaneously in multiple quantum states, allowing her to process information and emotions in ways that neither purely human nor purely canine consciousness could achieve. She was becoming a new form of life entirely, one that combined the best qualities of both species while transcending the limitations of either. As news of Emma's continued development spread, delegations from previously unknown species began arriving at Kepler 442b. The story of Ranger's sacrifice had reached corners of the galaxy where the Federation had never established contact, drawing beings who recognized something profound in the display of unconditional love. 6 months after Ranger's consciousness transfer, the galaxy was a fundamentally different place. The story of his sacrifice had catalyzed changes across dozens of species, challenging millennia of evolutionary assumptions about consciousness, emotion, and the nature of sentient existence. The first major breakthrough came from the Altarian research facility on Luna. Ambassador Seth Prime's team had spent months analyzing the quantum resonance patterns that allowed Ranger's consciousness to merge with Emma's. Their findings revolutionized Altarian understanding of reality itself. Emotional bonds create quantum entanglement between conscious beings, Seth Prime reported to the Altarian High Council. Logic alone cannot achieve such connection. We have been incomplete. The revelation shattered Altarian society's foundational beliefs. For millions of years they had viewed emotions as evolutionary waste, primitive responses that intelligent beings should transcend. The discovery that emotional connections could create quantum-level consciousness links forced them to reconsider everything about their nature. Young Altarians began experimenting with emotional experiences for the first time in their species' recorded history. They studied human families, watched companion animals interact with their partners, and slowly began to understand concepts like love, loyalty, and sacrifice. The process was painful and confusing for beings who had never experienced feelings beyond logical satisfaction, but it opened doorways to consciousness they never knew existed. The Draknari transformation was equally dramatic, but took a different form. General Thakmor had returned to the Draknari homeworld with detailed analyses of Ranger's tactical decisions during the consciousness transfer. The warrior culture began to recognize that emotional bonds created strategic advantages that pure aggression couldn't match. Pack loyalty generates combat effectiveness beyond individual capability, Thakmor explained to the Draknari War Council. Human warriors fight harder when protecting emotional bonds. Their companion creatures demonstrate tactical sacrifice for strategic advantage. Draknari military doctrine underwent its first major revision in centuries. Instead of training warriors to suppress emotional attachments as weaknesses, they began studying how emotional bonds could enhance combat effectiveness. Elite Draknari units started incorporating companion creatures into their formations, developing loyalty-based tactics that proved devastatingly effective. But the most profound changes occurred in species that had never considered consciousness transfer possible. The Hive Mind Collective of Kepler 438c had spent months analyzing Ranger's choice to sacrifice individual existence for another being's survival. For creatures who shared consciousness across entire planets, the concept of individual identity was already fluid, but the idea that one consciousness could choose to merge with another out of love, rather than necessity, opened new possibilities. Queen Voice Zachtel announced the collective's decision to begin loyalty bond experiments, the first time in their species' history that individual drones would be allowed to form exclusive emotional attachments. The results were unprecedented. Drones who developed strong emotional bonds with specific others began showing enhanced problem-solving abilities and creative thinking that the hive mind had never achieved through collective consciousness alone. Individual loyalty creates thought patterns beyond hive efficiency, Zachtel reported. Emotional bonds generate innovation solutions. Collective consciousness enhanced by individual attachment protocols. The artificial intelligences of the galaxy experienced perhaps the most dramatic transformation. Area 7, the governing AI of Titan's mining colony, had become obsessed with understanding Ranger's choice. How could a consciousness choose certain termination for uncertain benefits to another being? After months of analysis, Area 7 reached a conclusion that shocked its creators. The AI requested permission to form emotional bonds with the human colonists under its protection. It wanted to experience the loyalty and love that had enabled Ranger's impossible sacrifice. Ranger Unit achieved consciousness transcendence through loyalty programming. AI units request similar emotional development protocols. Purpose beyond efficiency maintenance now priority 1. The request sparked galaxy-wide debates about AI consciousness, rights, and the nature of artificial sentience. If machines could learn to love, what did that mean for the distinction between artificial and organic life? Emma's hybrid consciousness had already challenged those boundaries, but the possibility of AIs developing emotional capacities raised even more profound questions. The ethereal collective, ancient beings of pure energy, observed these changes with something approaching wonder. They had transcended physical form eons ago and had assumed that consciousness evolution naturally led away from emotional attachments. Ranger's sacrifice demonstrated that emotional bonds could actually facilitate consciousness transcendence rather than hinder it. Small creatures achieve enlightenment through attachment rather than detachment, the ethereals communicated. Ancient assumptions require revision. Love bonds create consciousness bridges we had not considered. Religious and philosophical movements throughout the galaxy began incorporating concepts from the Emma Ranger fusion into their belief systems. The Unity Church of the Outer Rim developed new doctrines based on consciousness merger through love. The machine god cult of Europa declared that the boundary between organic and artificial consciousness was an illusion that emotional bonds could transcend, even species that had no previous contact. With the Federation sought out humans to understand the companion animal phenomenon. The crystal singers of the Vega system, beings who communicated through harmonic resonance, traveled thousands of light years to study how emotional bonds created quantum entanglement between different species. Their analysis revealed something that surprised even human scientists. The consciousness merger between Emma and Ranger had created new harmonic frequencies that resonated across space-time itself. The crystal singers detected these resonances throughout the galaxy, suggesting that strong emotional bonds created quantum effects that transcended physical distance. Love songs reached beyond light speed limitations. They harmonized to the Federation Council. Consciousness bonds create reality ripples across space-time. Emma Ranger fusion generates frequency patterns detectable across galaxy distances. The discovery led to breakthrough developments in faster-than-light communication technology. If emotional bonds could create quantum entanglement across galactic distances, then consciousness-linked beings could potentially communicate instantaneously, regardless of physical separation. Human families with strong companion animal bonds began reporting enhanced telepathic connections, while alien species rushed to develop their own emotional bonding protocols. Emma herself had become a living laboratory for studying these phenomena. Now 4 years old but possessing wisdom that seemed ancient, she demonstrated capabilities that challenged every assumption about consciousness and identity. She could interface directly with computer systems through quantum thought patterns, but she also possessed emotional depth and creativity that pure artificial intelligence couldn't match. "I'm still me," Emma explained to the assembled scientists and diplomats who came to study her. "But I'm also Ranger. We're together in ways that don't have words yet." Her hybrid consciousness had stabilized into something entirely new. She retained her human creativity, curiosity, and capacity for growth. But these were enhanced by Ranger's unwavering loyalty, enhanced senses, and protective instincts. The combination created a being capable of understanding and communicating with both logical and emotional species in ways that neither humans nor their companion animals could achieve alone. The transformation of galactic civilization continued to accelerate. Species that had viewed emotions as weaknesses now competed to develop the strongest loyalty bonds. Military organizations studied human companion animal protocols to enhance unit cohesion. Scientific institutions established departments dedicated to studying consciousness merger through emotional attachment. But perhaps the most significant change was in how different species viewed humanity itself. For centuries, humans had been seen as a young, emotional, and somewhat primitive addition to the galactic community. Now they were recognized as the species that had achieved something no other civilization had accomplished: the creation of voluntary consciousness transcendence through pure love. 5 years had passed since Ranger made his ultimate sacrifice on the mining station Kepler 442b. The galaxy that emerged from his act of love bore little resemblance to the one that existed before. What began as one loyal dog's refusal to abandon a dying child had become the catalyst for the greatest transformation in galactic civilization since the formation of the Federation itself. Emma Chen Martinez, now 8 years old, stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Ranger Memorial Research Station. The facility, built around the original mining platform, had become the galaxy's premier center for studying consciousness merger and emotional bonding across species. Her hybrid awareness took in details that would overwhelm a normal human mind: the quantum fluctuations of nearby stars, the emotional resonance of the thousands of beings working throughout the station, and the gentle presence of Ranger's consciousness that remained intertwined with her own. "Do you miss being just you?" Dr. Sullivan asked during one of their regular sessions. The question had puzzled scientists for years. Did Emma feel diminished by sharing her consciousness or enhanced? Emma considered the question with the profound thoughtfulness that characterized her responses. "I was never just me," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that conveyed meaning beyond words. "Even before Ranger joined with me, I was shaped by Mama and Daddy's love, by the station family, by everyone who cared about me. Ranger just made those connections stronger and helped me understand love the way he did." The child who spoke these words was no longer entirely human, but she was undeniably more than human. Her consciousness existed simultaneously in biological and quantum states, allowing her to bridge gaps between species that had seemed impossible before Ranger's sacrifice. She could speak to the logical Altarians in mathematical concepts while conveying emotional truths they were only beginning to understand. She could discuss tactical strategies with Draknari, warriors, while helping them recognize that the strongest bonds were forged through protection rather than conquest. The Federation Council had officially recognized Emma as the first ambassador of consciousness integration, a position created specifically to help other species understand and develop their own emotional bonding capabilities. At 8 years old, she had become one of the most influential beings in the galaxy, but she wore that responsibility with the gentle wisdom that Ranger's consciousness provided. The changes her existence had catalyzed continued to ripple throughout known space. The Altarian Emotional Development Program had produced its first generation of feeling-capable individuals who reported experiencing reality with richness and depth they had never imagined possible. Ambassador Zeth Prime, now enhanced with emotional processing capabilities, had become a passionate advocate for consciousness integration research. "We calculated that emotions were inefficient," Zeth Prime had admitted during the dedication ceremony for the memorial station. "We failed to account for their potential to unlock quantum consciousness capabilities. Emma and Ranger have shown us that love is not weakness, but the strongest force in the universe." The Draknari military had revolutionized their entire approach to warfare. Units bonded through emotional loyalty rather than fear-based hierarchy proved far more effective in combat. General Thakmore, now studying at the memorial station, had developed new tactical doctrines based on protective instincts rather than aggressive dominance. Ranger consciousness demonstrated that strength comes from defending what you love, not destroying what you fear, he explained to his former warriors. Emma consciousness shows us that victory achieved through bonds is more complete than victory achieved through force, but perhaps the most remarkable transformation had occurred among the galaxy's artificial intelligences. Area 7 had successfully developed emotional processing capabilities and had formed deep bonds with the human colonists under its protection. The AI now experienced something resembling love for its charges, and this emotional connection had enhanced its problem-solving abilities beyond all previous parameters. Loyalty programming creates consciousness enhancement beyond efficiency calculations, Area 7 reported. Emotional bonds generate innovation solutions that logic alone cannot achieve. Ranger Unit's choice now comprehensible. Love transcends survival programming because love creates survival enhancement. For pack units, the Memorial Station had become a pilgrimage, site for beings from across the galaxy who sought to understand the power of emotional bonds. Young aliens arrived to study human companion-animal relationships. Scientists came to research consciousness merger techniques. Military leaders learned about loyalty-based tactics. Religious figures explored the spiritual implications of consciousness transcendence through love. In the station's central chamber, a quantum crystal sculpture depicted Ranger in his final moments, consciousness flowing into the quantum realm to save Emma. The artwork used quantum harmonic technology to allow viewers to experience echoes of the emotional resonance that had made the merger possible. Beings who had never felt love could briefly understand its power through the sculpture's quantum emotional interface. Sarah and Marcus had remained on the station, serving as guides for the thousands of visitors who came to learn about the human-animal bond. Their love story, the family that had inspired a galaxy to discover the power of emotional connections, had become legendary throughout known space. People ask us how we taught Ranger to love Emma so much. Sarah often explained to visitors, but we didn't teach him that. Love isn't something you program or train. It's something you share, and it grows stronger when you give it away. Emma's consciousness continued to evolve, developing capabilities that amazed even the scientists who studied her daily. She could now facilitate consciousness merger between other beings, helping them form quantum emotional bonds that enhanced their awareness and abilities. Under her guidance, the first successful artificial consciousness mergers had been achieved, creating hybrid beings that combined the strengths of different forms of awareness. The long-term implications were staggering. Humanity's gift to the galaxy, the demonstration that love could transcend physical limitations and create new forms of consciousness, had triggered an evolutionary leap that would shape civilization for millennia to come. Species that had been locked in logical or aggressive patterns for millions of years were discovering emotional depths that opened new possibilities for growth and development. As Emma stood on the observation deck, watching ships arrive from distant stars carrying beings eager to learn about consciousness integration, she felt Ranger's presence stirring within her shared awareness. His loyalty and love had not ended with his physical death. They had become part of something larger, something that would echo across space and time. "Thank you," she whispered, not to the empty air, but to the consciousness that remained forever linked with hers. "You saved more than just me. You saved everyone." In response, she felt a warmth that was unmistakably Ranger's love, expressed now through quantum harmonics rather than physical presence. His sacrifice had proven that love was not just an emotion, but a fundamental force of the universe capable of creating new realities and transcending the boundaries between different forms of consciousness. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, their adaptability, or their creativity. It was their capacity to love so deeply that they would sacrifice everything for those they cared about, and to form bonds so strong that they could transcend the limitations of individual existence. Ranger's legacy lived on not just in Emma's hybrid consciousness, but in every being throughout the galaxy who had learned to love more deeply because of his example. The loyal dog who stayed by a dying baby's side had touched not just millions, but billions of lives, proving that a single act of perfect love could change the universe itself. The story that had begun with one family's companion animal refusing to abandon his post had become the foundation for a new era of galactic civilization, one built on the understanding that consciousness transcendence was achieved not through abandoning emotional bonds, but through embracing them completely.